Economic Development in Tropical Queensland and Net Zero, a review of challenges and opportunities. In this paper, we draw on many years of involvement in the promotion of economic development in the regions of Tropical Queensland to bring into perspective the realities of the economic structure and the directions in which future development can realistically be expected to take place. Against this background, the paper explores the extent and type of challenges and opportunities the pursuit of global net zero presents. It is more important to recognize that historically, the continent's tropical areas represented a much greater challenge to a nation with most of its population and its technology drawn from temperate zone northwestern Europe. New settlers brought with them a suite of highly developed plants and animals, building technology, clothing, and seasonal social patterns relatively easily adapted to the climate of southern Australia, but was largely unsuited to a tropical climate. Development of the area was late starting and experienced severe early setbacks. By the end of World War II, Tropical Queensland, covering an area equivalent to the states of New South Wales, Victoria and Tasmania, had a population only about the same as Tasmania of 300,000. Its economy was heavily dependent on a few industries earning income from outside the area based on its biological and mineral resources. However, it was important to recognize that the area's resource base was still very underdeveloped. There were four underlying factors that would see major realization of potential that would then underpin growth of the regional cities. Number one, a growing world economy, especially in nearby Asia, reaching out for previously underdeveloped resources. Number two, transport and communication developments that were breaking down old cost barriers of remoteness. Number three, the development of technology suited to the tropics. And number four, success breeds success factors as population and infrastructure built up. Against this background, as the area rapidly built up earnings from outside the area from resource-based industries, Tropical Queensland's growth outpaced most regional areas of Australia. Mechanisation saw the sugar industry throw off the need for protection. New superior tropical breeds were introduced into beef cattle herds. Sealing of the last sections of the Bruce Highway saw a major new horticultural sector develop. New fishery resources were discovered and developed. Transport development saw the area's brilliant combination and quality of tourism resources burst on national and international markets. Development of bulk carriers that saw the area's major sedimentary mineral deposits of coal, bauxite, and silica sand generate major exports. And the strategic defence locations saw the development of army, naval and air bases in the area. Importantly, relatively large numbers of smaller vessels and aircraft stimulated by the base industries earning outside income led to skills-based aircraft and maritime maintenance and repair clusters developing. Growing populations saw university campuses established and higher order health and hospital services developed. Although there has been a great deal of progress, the reality is that the area's economy is still heavily based on sectors earning income from outside the area that are based on the area's biological and mineral resources, primary industries, tourism and mining. However, the four factors identified of growing global markets, falling transport costs, improving tropical technology, and success are still there, and it is still vital that these opportunities for further resource-based industry development continue to be pursued. Realization of opportunities in relation to strategic location and defence is currently important. The reality is also that although population has reached 1 million in the area and there are opportunities to develop higher order services and skill-based activities, the area's population and economy is still relatively small and off-centre for the development of manufacturing and services catering for statewide and national markets. It also needs to be noted that in terms of competitiveness in world markets, the region, along with the rest of Australia, has very high wage costs, and the area often relies on mechanisation and investment in highly efficient production and transport systems to be competitive. Now, in relation to achieving net zero, the first aspect that needs to be recognised is that Tropical Queensland's economic structure leads to it recording very high energy use per head of population, and that currently most of this energy is derived from fossil fuel. On top of this, the area is a major exporter of fossil fuel, especially the Mackay and Capricorn regions. This table compares petroleum product imports through the area's ports on a per capita basis compared with the state of South Australia at a national level. It indicates that on a per capita basis, Tropical Queensland is consuming about double the national average and well over double that of South Australia. Table 2 indicates that electricity consumption in Tropical Queensland is about double that of the rest of Queensland and the state of South Australia. And the final table gives figures for value of coal and gas exports through the area's ports. It indicates that these exports total about 80 billion a year. Clearly, the challenge of a policy of global net zero by 2050 to Tropical Queensland's continuing economic progress is high compared with most other areas of Australia. However, this is offset by some obvious opportunities. The following discusses 3 obvious challenges and 3 obvious opportunities. So challenges. Number 1, replacement of fossil fuel export income. Value of coal and gas export is currently valued at about 80 billion per annum. In the short run, no restraints are being placed on fossil fuel exports. The use of gas as a transition fuel could see gas exports increase for some time. However, if these regions are not to go backwards, replacement activity would need to be developed. Number 2, the avoidance of sharp increase in energy cost impacts on vulnerable sectors. The paper identifies industry sectors that are particularly vulnerable, especially those that compete internationally and especially those that compete with products and services from other tropical countries where few constraints have been placed on carbon emissions. We identified earlier that much of the progress in the region has been a result of falling transport costs. Industry sectors identified include tourism, beef, fisheries, sugar, horticulture, irrigation farmers, and foundry operations. Number 3, restraints placed on achieving agricultural potential. The following CSIRO map shows the degree to which carbon is absorbed by plant growth in various parts of Australia, a measure referred to as NPP, net primary productivity. It illustrates that plant growth potential per square metre across tropical Australia is higher than southern Australia, with Tropical Queensland leading the northern area. River basins water runoff in Tropical Queensland accounts for about 32% of the nation's total. However, Tropical Queensland is currently producing only 9.6% of the nation's total in value of agricultural production. Over recent decades, agriculture has been a growth sector and there is obvious potential for expansion, especially if heavy wet season water supply can be evened out over the year. However, one of the restraints that has come from net zero considerations has been restraints on tree clearing for transition to agricultural production, something that happened long ago in southern Australia. There is a need to develop land clearing techniques that can minimise carbon gas release. James Cook University has been active in this field in the past with its biochar program. Once land is under agricultural production with fertilizers and water application promoting growth, it could be expected that carbon absorption can be superior to that of native forests. Land under agricultural production is not prone to annual fires. Now, the opportunities. Number 1, tropical agriculture biofuel potential. Tropical agriculture has been a leader in the production of biofuel, especially the sugar industry in Brazil, where the balance of production between sugar and ethanol can be affected by world oil prices, in turn affecting world sugar prices. In Australia, the industry has long used bagasse fibre residue to power its mills and export green electricity into the grid. The Serena mill has long produced power alcohol. 10% ethanol fuel E10 can be bought at petrol stations. There have long been plans to expand green electricity production, produce ethanol and even bioplastics. However, by and large, these plans have not proved commercially viable enough to go ahead. One recent exception has been a new power plant at the Tablelands mill, but so far a further stage that envisaged ethanol production, including growing a supplementary crop of blue agave, a crop grown widely in Mexico for tequila production, has not proceeded. Pangemia is a tree that produces pods that in India have been used since Vedic times as lamp oil, and with little refining produces biodiesel. There have been various trial plantings, and Rio Tinto has recently announced buying 3,000 hectares of cleared land south of Townsville as part of a new biofuels pilot project. Palm oil and coconut oil, widely produced nearby in Papua New Guinea, could also be a source of biofuel. Number 2, harnessing very strong solar energy and wind resources. Being in the tropics, the solar resources are more evenly spread throughout the year without great variation in day length as occurs in areas further away from the equator. The annual wet season of greater cloud cover comes during the summer months when solar activity is at its peak. Wind resources are more limited, but are still substantial in the Atherton and Evelyn Tablelands area and potentially the east coast of Cape York Peninsula. Solar and wind resources are currently being rapidly developed. While there is a lot of activity that can be supported by electricity production from solar sources, there are many situations where energy needs to be portable. One potential portable fuel is hydrogen. A benefit of plentiful solar capacity is the potential to produce green hydrogen that is being currently explored at Townsville and Gladstone. One of the best and largest sources of silica sand used for solar glass production in Asia are the deposits north of Cooktown in the Cape Flattery area, with further mines proposed. Number 3, hydroelectricity potential. The value of hydro generation in the mix has long been recognised, with the Barron Falls Hydro Station going back to the 1930s and the Tully scheme going back to the 1950s. Hydro schemes are particularly valuable for the generation of power during peak load periods when electricity prices are typically high. The intermittent power production of solar and wind has put an even higher premium on availability of power that can be relied upon when needed. Pumped hydro schemes virtually act as a battery that is charged during low-cost electricity periods. The topography and rainfall of the area leads to further potential hydro development, with the Kidston Pumped Hydro Scheme underway and proposals put forward in the Mackay Pioneer area, the Burdekin, and in the far north in the Tully area. To summarise, the current and likely future structure of the economy and the tropical Queensland area is such that it is a heavy consumer of energy that is currently mainly supplied by fossil fuels. The area is also a major exporter of fossil fuels. The global transition to net zero represents challenges to its continuing economic progress greater than those faced by most other parts of Australia that will need to be addressed. However, offsetting this, the area has potential opportunities for biofuel and solar energy production balanced by hydroelectricity generation. Thank you.